Coming up next, the CEO Roundtable with the 2021 Excellence in Gender and Diversity Awardees.
Everyone, and welcome to this such an important segment of the Women's Business Collaborative Summit. I'm Rebecca Shambaugh, and I'm president of Shambaugh Leadership, founder of Women in Leadership and Learning, and proud to be part of the WBC Board of Directors, joined by my colleagues Robert Reiss, also a fellow Board of Director for WBC, and Jose Zalestra, a fellow Board of Directors also for WBC. We are excited today to share this extraordinary opportunity to celebrate and salute such extraordinary CEOs who have demonstrated intentional leadership and vision and passion around achieving gender diversity within their organizations. So we want to salute all of our CEOs today. Thank you for your, again, intentional leadership. We honor you, and thank you for being a role model for so many people viewing this conversation today, and so many others. So before we get started engaging in a rich dialogue with our CEOs, I'd like to just do a quick introduction, and these are very brief because there is just so much to talk about with the CEOs. But let me start first to kick off with Mary Barra. Mary is the Chair and Chief Executive Officer of General Motors. We salute GM for having 54% of their board of directors who are women, and their extraordinary commitment towards supplier diversity, investing in $663 million that are women-owned businesses. Thank you, GM. GM has invested in such programs as GM Women's ERG, Allied Program for GM, and their Global Women's Council to help increase the representation of qualified and aspirational women. Mary is the chair and founding member of GM's Inclusion and Advisory Board, and a member of the Business Roundtable, where she chairs the Education and Workforce Committee, and also is on the subcommittee for the Racial Equity and Justice Committee as well. So thank you, Mary, for joining us today. We're honored to have you. We also have Doug McMillon, President and CEO of Walmart. Walmart has demonstrated an exceptional commitment and progress towards gender diversity, with 40% of their C-suite being women and 55.18% global representation of diverse talent. Walmart has also invested in $15 billion for supplier diversity, and over 50% of their talent has invested, over 15% of their talent are women. Doug is chairman of the Business Roundtable and serves on the board of directors of the Consumer Goods Forum, the U.S.-China Business Council, and Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. Welcome, Doug. It's great to have you there, and thank you so much for all your leadership.
Thanks.
Our other CEO is Larry Fink, founder and chairman and CEO of BlackRock. Under Larry's executive leadership, 43% of BlackRock's employees are women, with 47% of women representing all new hires at BlackRock. Larry believes that being transparent and honest are key factors for making real progress towards gender and racial diversity, equity, and inclusion. BlackRock is committed to developing and seeking out qualified, diverse businesses from underrepresented groups. They are dedicated to a diverse broker program aimed at increasing connectivity and engagement with minority of women and disabled veteran-owned firms in the U.S., which helps them to grow their businesses and have greater impact. Thank you so much there for joining us, Larry, and we look forward to having you in the program today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have Ronald Hanley, who's the chairman and CEO of State Street. At State Street, 40% of their VPs are diverse, with a majority being women and 50% of their talent overall being diverse, with women representing a majority of that talent pipeline. State Street has also launched a leading women sponsorship program for women of color, designed to provide sponsorship and mentoring for Black and Latino women. In 2021, State Street was named by Working Mother as one of the top 100 companies to work for, and Sierra Mount's 2021 Best Companies for Multicultural Women. Congratulations, Ronald Hanley, and great to have you here in this segment of the program today.
Thank you, Becky.
And last but not least, we have David Taylor, the chairman and president CEO of Procter & Gamble. P&G has 40% of their board of directors as women, with 41% women representing the C-suite. P&G has also invested $2 billion per year to women-owned businesses and has made a huge effort to invest in their pipeline and have close to 40% of their women in management roles. P&G has successfully engaged and executed a supplier and diversity program in the US for 45 years and has built a global strategy to really engage and make this such a successful program. I want to personally thank, on behalf of all of us here, a big congratulations. And again, thank you for your, not only your inspirational leadership, but walking the talk and really making diversity, gender parity, a reality within your organizations. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Robert Reiss, who will be engaging in a rich dialogue with our CEOs on the why for gender parity and diversity. Robert, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Becky. At the heart of every great movement is one word: why. We're going to hear the why gender parity is important and diversity is important personally to all of our CEOs. Ron, I'd like to start off with you. So you created the 10-point action plan. What is it about this that is so critically important to you?
Well, Robert, thanks very much. And thanks to all of you for the opportunity to be here. It's a real honor. I would also like to start by recognizing and congratulating WBC for doing this, for bringing together so many women and to help continue to address the problem. Much progress has been made, but the problem's not solved. I mean, diversity, equity, and inclusion have become priorities for all of us for many reasons. But the most important reason is that companies with diverse leadership and oversight are better companies, and they're better at creating long-term value. The data shows this, empirical analysis shows this, so it's the right thing to do. We also know that in dynamic times and in a disruptive era, companies that expect to thrive must be prepared to innovate. And one of the best ways to drive innovation is to harness the power of different ideas from different people. The evidence is clear. Companies are only as strong, resilient, and innovative as the different backgrounds, experiences, and skills and voices that are included. The value creation of a business is dependent on the diversity of our people, their engagement, and their sense of belonging. Personally, I've seen this play out many times in my own experience. When faced with a challenge, diversity of thought is a key. People with different life experiences bring unique perspectives to a problem. When solving problems without the benefit of diversity, groupthink has the potential to take hold and get in the way of the best outcomes. That's why diversity, equity, and inclusion are not only important to me as a leader, but important to our board, our shareholders, our clients, our communities, and our employees. DEI drives long-term sustainability and value creation. Leaders set the tone and direction. As leaders, we have the responsibility to build and foster diversity in our companies and our communities, not only for the profitable growth of our businesses, but also for the prosperity of our communities, local and global. Business leadership matters here. It's an honor to be with these incredible business leaders. I thank all of you that are truly making a difference.
Thank you, Ron. Doug, it's not every day you get to hear from the leader of the largest organization in the world Walmart, $559 billion revenue in my calculation. So from day one, you have been passionate about gender parity, about diversity. Tell us why.
At Walmart, we have 4 timeless values that we use to guide our actions and shape our culture. One of those values is respect for the individual. To us, that means not only accepting differences to be more inclusive, but celebrating unique identities, perspectives, experiences, and abilities. We see people for who they are and welcome them to create a sense of belonging and enable them to achieve their potential. When individuals and teams perform, we fulfill our purpose of saving people money and helping them live better, and we achieve our other goals. We're encouraged by the progress we've made to increase the diversity of our leadership at Walmart. We're seeing meaningful growth in leadership representation from both women and people of color. We're also using our business and philanthropic resources to address drivers of systemic disparities in society and to contribute to collective efforts to advance equity for all. The challenges of the past 18 months have been disproportionately affecting women and minority groups because of inequalities that existed before and during the pandemic. A recent McKinsey study tells us that 1 in 4 women in the U.S. have considered downshifting their career or leaving the workforce altogether. There's real risk of erasing the progress we've made for women and minorities in the workplace. Our challenge, both at Walmart and across the entire business sector, is to use our resources to continue reshaping our own culture, processes, and policies, and the systems beyond our own companies to create a more equitable society for all.
Well, thank you, Doug. Larry, since 2012, the letter you write to CEOs has really been the harbinger of thought leadership. Talk about gender parity, diversity, and why you're out in front on this.
Thank you, Robert, and congratulations to my fellow honorees. 8 founders when we began BlackRock, 6 men, 2 women. We started over 33 years ago with a commitment to do things differently, to constantly push ourselves individually, but also to push ourselves as an organization, to do better for our clients and to do better for all our employees. At that point in my career, all I knew that Sue Wagner and Barbara Novick were rock stars. I really wasn't thinking about building a diverse firm, but that they were just brilliant people. But over the years, I began to understand just how important it is to have a diverse set of perspective. And that is why we have to rid ourselves of groupthink. Because groupthink is the death of any organization. A more diverse group of colleagues not only will make us a better company, but it's also consistent with the purpose of our organization in helping and create a more resilient and a more sustainable future. This was a journey for me personally, and I haven't gotten it all right all the time, nor did the firm get it all right. But as we began to develop the next generations of BlackRock leaders, we realized that we need to have diversity at the front. And that is why we're taking deliberate steps to improve gender equality with a particular focus on developing women, Blacks, Latinx talent in leadership roles. And we also, over the years, transformed the makeup of our board. If we're going to help our clients manage their money, then we need to look like our clients. We need to mirror them. With a growing number of women managing wealth, not just in their households, but in endowments, in institutions, we need more women to drive our business. At BlackRock, we know that our employees are central to our success, and it's our employees that define our culture. Part of that culture is creating an inclusive and equitable environment that's ensuring that everyone is heard, everyone is recognized and respected. We must be conscious about how our words and actions impact others. This is about developing greater empathy and driving behavioral changes. We are focused on building a culture where people feel respected and an environment where people feel safe. And I want to underline the word safe to speak up. Hearing the voices of people with various backgrounds and perspectives not only will lead a more positive result, it will serve to improve our culture, it'll serve and improve our business, and overall it will serve our overall firm. And it's critical in attracting the best and brightest to work at BlackRock. As this conversation around DEI grows, the companies that thrive will be the ones that demonstrate they are living with purpose and they have the courage of conviction. BlackRock is committed to be doing that part. I'm honored to be part of this conversation today, to listen, to learn from leaders in the field. It's through this continuous dialogue that we evolve, we improve, we build more success, we build more innovation, and most importantly, we build a more equitable company. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Mary, when you became CEO of GM, you became the CEO of one of the largest enterprises and set an historic message. You have been passionate in all of your actions in driving gender equality and driving diversity. Talk about on a personal level why this is so important to you.
Well, I think, overall at General Motors, we really aspire to be the most inclusive company in the world. And it's not a title we want to hold on our own, though. It's something we hope all companies work because we think that's just going to make a better world. And as a company, we want to reflect the world around us and make sure every employee knows they can bring their true self to work and do their best work, because we really believe if people are bringing their true selves to work and feel that sense of belonging, that's going to lead to innovation and stronger business results. And when you look at General Motors, we have long been a global leader in advocating for women's equality in the workplace. And I would say, I think I sit here today and have the honor of leading General Motors because of those many, many decades of commitment to advancing women and providing opportunities. So I'm very honored, and what it means to me personally is to be a part of a company that has made this investment over several decades. We believe that a gender equal world is a world that is enabled and is inclusive and really will lead to better business results and spark innovation as we move forward. So I'm truly honored to be here today with all of you as we discuss our collective efforts to create and uphold inclusive environments across our companies and across the business world and the world in general.
Thank you, Mary. David, you're completing your tenure as leader of P&G. Throughout your entire tenure, you have focused on gender equality, diversity. Talk about that.
Well, there's two primary reasons that I'd say. One is a values-based reason, and one is just a business reason. At P&G, first on values. In P&G, we aspire to build a better world for all of us, much as Mary said, a world that's free from gender bias, with equal voice, equal representation, and equal opportunity for all individuals, a world where everyone sees equal. We had an interesting film on that point. We want to create a company in a world where equality and inclusion are achievable for all, where equal access and opportunity to learn, grow, succeed, and thrive are available to everyone. Our gender equality efforts are holistic and they're integrated so that we make a meaningful impact in four key areas. First, our employees. Second, our brands. We use the voice of our brands, our partners, and for our communities. We want to ensure we're getting the full value of our diversity by creating an inclusive environment so that every P&Ger can bring their full selves to work. Because we know that the better we represent the people we serve, the better we can innovate for them, communicate with them, and ultimately serve them. One of the reasons why I believe we're delivering strong results, despite the challenging environment we're in, is because we've activated more and more of the full capability of P&G people through an environment that promotes respect and inclusion, an environment that focuses on equal access and opportunity for everyone, so each of us can perform at our best. And just to add to that, from a business standpoint, you think about it, 5 billion people will buy a P&G product this year around the world. The majority of those decisions are made by women. So if our leadership reflects the people we serve, we'll do a better job doing that.
Thank you, David. Now, as the audience, you can see why these 5 were selected. Passion, vision, focus, and true care. And this is the future. So now we've spoken about the why. We're going to start talking about the board. And in board of directors, I want to start off with Ron. Ron, you at State Street had the fearless girl, which really drove to me the idea that we needed more women on boards. How's this working out?
Well, Robert, Our focus on diversity has been longstanding, and Fearless Girl was meant to underscore what we had observed in our stewardship activities, that there was just this extraordinary shortage of women on boards and that something needed to be done with it. But we haven't stopped there, and our board has been instrumental in continuing to both support us and push us. Last year, we publicly released the 10 State Street actions to address racism and inequality. This came out after the George Floyd situation. And it was very important to us to follow this up publicly because the great thing about being public about what you do is that you also hold yourself out as being accountable. These actions were designed to foster inclusion, diversity, fairness, and equity, both within State Street, but also within the communities in which we operate, because we know we have a footprint. All of these companies here carry a big footprint, and we can make an impact on our communities. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a set of priorities that are allowing us to accelerate what we do to progress, learn, and achieve more. They address representation, not just of women, but Black and Latinx. They were addressing talent, development, advancement, and then importantly, how we engage suppliers and governance models. Every one of us works with suppliers in some ways, even in a financial institution. So for example, we were quite pleased to announce that one of the things that we do as a financial institution is we raise money. And we issued an $850 million senior subordinated offering this year. And we used banks, not the usual bulge bracket banks, but Black and Latinx owned banks. And we asked our partners to work with them to make them better so that they could, quote, get this one under their belt, be able to point to it and do others. And we're fortunate to have a board that pushes us. Our board itself is diverse. 42% of the board consists of women and or persons of color. And to oversee these actions, the board and management have established a Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Council. Last, but certainly not least, we've put measurement behind it. There's that old saying that what gets measured gets managed, what gets paid for gets done. So each of our senior managers has a diversity goal, and it gets measured through the year. Some of these are long-term goals, so they're over 3-year timeframes. We're holding executives accountable, and it gets tied to their executive pay. So this is just a starting place, just as Fearless Girl was a starting place. Progress does not equal completion. We all have more work to do, and I'm really pleased to be working with a group of people like this where I can learn from. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Ron. Now we're going to hear from David. Let's talk about your board. 46% are women, and of your independent board members, 50% are women. How did you achieve this? What was the process to get there?
There's a number of things I'd say. Well, first, as you said, today, women are 50% of the independent directors. It's up from 33% 5 years ago. In just a few weeks, pending the board election by our shareholders, that will increase to 60% of the independent directors. And it's because our commitment to equality and inclusion starts at the top of our company. From our board of directors to me, to our leadership team, citizenship and our equality and inclusion efforts are embedded in how we do business. It isn't bolted on, it's intentional and strategic. The board and I hold ourselves and P&G leaders accountable for our work in equality and inclusion. We set targets and track progress. I do believe personal accountability drives a lot of this, and we have personal accountability at the board with myself and with the senior leaders. Representation is an ongoing commitment. It's one of the many ways we make and measure our progress. From the board level on down, we believe that equality benefits all of us. It will take all of us working together to make a bigger impact. And while we've made progress in many areas, we know we can do even more. We're committed to setting stretching, achievable, and meaningful representation targets for women and for multicultural women, expanding our sourcing capabilities to ensure we attract and hire a diverse talent pool that reflects our consumers, and investing in initiatives to support, develop, and advance all women and support their advancement around the globe. One of the things I feel best about is today across our whole organization, we're 48% women and globally, we're 50% women of our total workforce now in the US. And this is something the board is engaged in each year in a way that to me supports the actions we're taking as a company.
Thank you, David. Mary, you've really set the bar. You've 54% women on your board. How did you accomplish this? What does it mean to GM?
Well, first, what it means is we have an incredibly capable and strategic board that I really think helps General Motors set our strategic direction and then holds us accountable. And, this happened over a period of time. We have a pretty rigorous process as we look to build our board to make sure we have the skill sets for the company going forward. We're in an industry that's transforming, and as a company, we are working to lead that transformation. And so it's been very deliberate, but I can tell you the strength of our board and the impact of the diversity on our board has really been enormous. The different backgrounds, different experiences enable our board to have various points of view. And I completely have seen that it has led for us to make better decisions, more well-rounded decisions after having robust debate. So it has really been a strength of the company as we move forward. And it really cascades through the company. Like others, our board holds me and our leadership team accountable for driving engagement, diversity, and inclusion. We measure all three, and we regularly report to the board, and we set goals, and everybody has requirements that they need to achieve each year as we work to attain aspirational goals that we've set for out into the future. So it's very much a part of how the company is led, starting with our board right through leadership.
Thank you, Mary. Larry, you've said that board diversity is a pillar. As a leader in investments, what's the return on investment?
Well, let me just start off and say we have two responsibilities. As you suggested, Robert, that we own a lot of shares of a lot of companies. And so we have to be focusing on how each company where we have ownership evolves. And we need to make sure that these companies are moving forward in all ways over the long term. But before we focus on how we vote on our shareholdings, BlackRock has to be instrumental as a firm itself. So we have to focus on what we are doing first, or we can't ask other companies as to what they're doing. And so we have two missions. And so because of our shares that we are responsible for on behalf of our shareholders, we put a great deal of effort on building the most diverse board that is feasible. A board that is not just diverse in gender or in color or race, but diverse geographically, but also diverse in their fields of expertise. And we believe a diverse board is critical in every way to help us navigate all the complexities that we all have in running a big global firm. I made a commitment that we'll be over 30%. We achieved that for women on our board. I expect to be way over that shortly without getting into any more details than that. But it is our objective. It is the board's objective. And because of that, as a more transparent and diverse board, that is driving us as managers internally to making sure that we have a more diverse organization too. Now, taking that forward, it allows us then as a corporate steward of our shareholders' money, as we look at the companies we invest in, that we have a lens that is important, a lens that making sure that companies are focusing on all their stakeholders and making sure that their stakeholders are diverse and their stakeholders are broad. But most importantly, the way that can be achieved, making sure the composition of a company's board and the composition of a company's leadership team are meant to be diverse too. So we look at it through these two lenses, but the most important lens I need to look at it, are we living what we're asking other companies to live? And I'm proud to say we are.
Well, congratulations. Thank you, Larry. So Doug, you are president and CEO, so you could talk a little bit about board selection, but what I mostly, and the audience mostly wants to hear about is your C-suite. You have 2.3 million people. That's almost twice the number 2 organization in the world. Talk about your focus on C-suite.
Yeah, it's so important that the C-suite, the leadership of the company, look like our customer base and our associate base. And with that number of associates, we look like the 24 countries that we serve. So just think of the US, for example, and how diverse it is. Our leadership team needs to reflect that. So my direct reports are 50% men, 50% women, and Kath McClay and Judith McKenna run 2 of our 3 big business segments in the business. And they, together with the other leaders, are focused on executing our strategy to become even more diverse and inclusive in time. And that includes stating our intentions, shaping culture with the information that people receive, the experiences that they have, the stories they're told, but also ensuring all of our policies and our processes deliver that outcome. So things like pay equity take rigor and discipline, and you got to do the math and have the routine, for example. It's important that as we recruit and as we promote, those same kinds of disciplines are in place. And so that leadership team you referred to is responsible for that along with me.
Well, thank you. We've heard from our team of CEOs about board. We've heard with passion, great leadership. Now we're going to shift over to talking about the C-suite and pipeline. Becky, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, all the CEOs. Doug, I'm going to pick up with you again. And we talked about the C-suite, but there's the pipeline, right? And, a lot of organizations will say, let's focus on who's ready now, right? And so we miss or regret to focus on that key talent, whether they espouse to be leaders or executives or not. They're there doing the work. And given you have one of the largest, employee-based organizations globally and a huge marketplace position, tell us how important your leadership is in building that robust pipeline. And, 1 or 2 things that you're proud of that's allowed you and your leadership to do that.
Yeah, it is so important. I mean, if you look at our situation, we have about 75% of our store management teams that come from hourly ranks. Our leaders that are in home office roles frequently come from the stores. So we grow talent from within. And so we've got this great pool to take advantage of to do so. 55% of our associates globally are women, but only 45% of our management is currently comprised of women, and only 33% of our officers. So in a nutshell, you can see the opportunity we have to pull through with that pipeline and have an even more diverse leadership team. And that's what we're focused on doing. So identification of talent, we got all kinds of talented people with great experience, degrees, and other things that we can pull from. All the processes related to that are really important in our company. We do things like create Live Better You, where people can go and get college credit at the expense of the company to help further their careers, and many other things to try and pull through even more talent from the company. There's no need, for example, to go look for great African-American talent outside the company in most instances, because we're the largest African-American employer in the country. So we have that pool built in.
Well, pipeline is certainly your ambassador for P&G, for Walmart. So obviously your investment in your leadership and setting the tone has been remarkably effective. So thank you for that. I want to move on to David at P&G. David, under your executive leadership, P&G has an impressive 41% of the women in their C-suite. People would like to know, I'm sure all of us, how have your organization, what steps have you taken to open up those doors and create those pathways for women in the C-suite?
I think it starts with clear aspirations and, frankly, accountability. You have to personally make it important to yourself and to your leadership team. And P&G is committed to achieving equal representation at all levels of the company. And in a company like P&G, where we're primarily a promote from within company, we hire outstanding people out of schools and from other careers. And then our job is to make sure we can identify and advance them. And we worked very hard over the last several years to get up to above 40% of our senior leadership. I'm proud to say of our 5 large multi-billion-dollar global businesses, 3 of the 5 are led by outstanding women. And we've done that by looking at the results across the company and making sure that we both see and invest in, less judging and more developing. And to me, the difference in mindset's important. Once you decide you want to be 50-50 throughout the company, in a company like P&G, and my guess is that my other peer companies on this event, we all have outstanding talent in our company. It's about identifying them, giving them the right career opportunities, and then personally intervening to make sure they get the development and opportunities to advance, the critical roles. And that's happened. At more junior levels, we're right now at 50-50, and we're moving up the organization, and we won't be too long before we're 50-50 throughout. We're there at the board. We're there now in the middle of the organization. We're hiring just above 50-50. And because, again, from a promote from within, we're moving up all the way. And I'm also proud to say we've checked pay equity, even. Women's view of, are there opportunities for me in this company, are equal to slightly above men today. That's different than it was 5 years ago. And I give credit to my senior leadership because they've all owned the accountability, the personal responsibility to make it happen.
Great, great examples. I want to move on to Mary. Perhaps what are some things that you have done personally in showing up as an executive to help to achieve this 30% and to personally engage these women to lean into their leadership and achieve their best self?
I think a couple things. First, for the most senior leaders in the company, the top 250 roughly, they are all approved by my leadership team. And one of the requirements as we approve a promotion, we look to say, was there a diverse slate? And my question always is, if there wasn't a diverse slate, what are you going to do to assure that there'll be a diverse slate within 3 years? And that, and then questioning that and asking the questions to make sure that that's really happening throughout the organization. The second thing is I meet with every member of the team once a year, and we go detailed into their organization to look at the pipeline, look at the hiring, looking at attrition, looking at promotions to make sure that we are achieving the aspirational targets that we set. And then I would say a third thing, I meet with all of the senior women leaders in GM 4 times a year. And I can tell you this started many years ago. In the first meeting that we had, I said, my goal is simple. I want to make sure that we get to a point in the not too distant future where this room is not big enough for when we all get together. And that was really motivational for the team. And as we meet, we talk about, we learn from each other and we talk about how we can create that upward mobility. One of the sessions each year, we call it expanding the network. And we ask each senior leader to bring 2 additional women leaders so they start to participate in the dialogue and know that they have a role to help develop the entire company. And then lastly, I'd say, I think it's also very important, if you look at how important technology is in all of our companies in every aspect, we need to make sure that we start developing women, female leadership before they even get to the company. Middle school is when girls are making decisions about STEM. And are they going to lean into a science and math type of curriculum or not? And so we do a lot of work, and it's one of my personal passions around education and making sure that women are pursuing STEM careers, or at least having an understanding of what is coding, so they can participate in the opportunities that are going to be available to them as they go to high school and then pursue different career paths after high school. So it's a multifaceted program and initiatives that we have to encourage more women in the workforce.
That I love that integrated approach. And number one, I've heard the accountability throughout today, and as Mary's punctuated, is so important. Setting that path forward. And Mary, thank you. I mean, just showing up and being visible to these women, I think once they see it's possible. Anything's possible, right? For me to aspire to achieve my leadership executive goals. And I think starting early, way before they even think about what they're going to do when they grow up, right? So to help and shape and support them in their thinking and help them to believe in themselves. So thank you so much for that great advice and guidance. I want to focus now with Larry from BlackRock. Under your executive leadership, Larry, BlackRock has 43% of their employees who are women, and 47% of women represent new hires. Larry, what is BlackRock doing that has paid off in attracting and building the pipeline of women and diverse talent, particularly as we are in the post-COVID, and I think even challenged more with the hybrid environment, the face-to-face environment, and challenging even more for women in the work-life piece?
Becky, as you know, it has been challenging in this COVID world, and so we have to be more resolute in terms of making sure that both men and women alike feel like their careers can be built and they have great opportunities for career growth, and they can make BlackRock their permanent home. And that is so important. I think one of the foundations of us, we have the lowest turnover of almost any financial services company, if not all financial services companies today, because we try to make it a home. But we're still not doing enough. We're not where we should be. This most recent year, 55% of the associates who are coming into the firm are women. We need to make sure that we are helping them in pathing their career. Where we were guilty, and I look back into where we weren't giving enough support, was we weren't helping all the young people, men and women, about creating a career path for them and helping them design a career path. And so now we're a lot more prescriptive, but much more hand-holding with everybody, especially women, because we want women to be in the jobs that are the highest paying jobs within the firm. We have done a full audit for jobs, equivalent job. Comp is the same worldwide. I can say that very proudly. However, we have always had some of the highest paid jobs. We did not have as many women. My objective now is to make more and more of the highest paying jobs to be places where women want to go. And those are more in my industry is more the portfolio managers. And as we said earlier, the women who are making decisions with household finance now. And so why shouldn't we have even more women helping us make those investments? And so we're taking a much more proactive review. And then importantly, it is about culture, creating leadership forums for women. It's about the culture of creating an inclusive culture. It's about culture, making sure that we have initiatives that are helping guide and helping them, that they have a safe environment where they could ask questions and grow together. And then on the making sure that we're doing this properly. In my upcoming board meeting later this month, we are going to have a 2-day session on succession and planning. And every leader who makes a presentation, their diversity, their roles and responsibilities that they're making, everybody's accountable for that too at the board level. And so the combination of making sure we have a culture of safety and a culture of helping people in advancing their career, that this can be their permanent home. But importantly, we're making sure that everybody's living up to those requirements. And we review this with great detail at every business in every country, making sure we're living what we're talking about.
Larry, thank you for that. I think if people know that they have a part in helping to shape their career and their aspirations, that's a key driver to want to stay with that company. And I think culture, it's a lot about culture. We can do all these things for women leaders, but if we don't have the culture that people feel like they're embraced, they're accepted, and can be themselves, right? Then it's very difficult to have all this effort really come to bear. So thank you, Larry, for all your great effort there. All right, well, we have a few minutes left, so I wanted to turn it over to Robert. Our other lever of, diversity and gender parity is on supplier diversity. So we have a few minutes for all of you to comment on that because of all the great work that you've done in that area. So I'll turn it over to Robert.
Thank you, Becky. And I'm going to start with Doug. Doug, $15 billion investment in supplier diversity. That's extraordinary. How is that paid off?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. It's really important that we sell relevant items, of course, in our stores and online. And to sell relevant items, you need to have a diverse supplier base. And we do get diversity through companies like P&G and the great work that David and his team are doing. But it's also really important that we embrace and reach out to small and medium-sized suppliers. Sometimes access to capital is the issue. Sometimes access to the purchase order is the issue. And we work to provide both a financing program to help them build supply and the purchase orders that are right-sized to help them fulfill demand. And for some people, a little bit of hand-holding helps, like to get them started. Maybe they should sell first just on our website. Maybe they should sell in 100 stores rather than reaching thousands of stores. Growing them at the right pace and helping them be successful at each step of the way is something that we're focused on. We're also a member of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and we donated the women-owned logo to them to help build consumer awareness. With this logo on items that we sell, you'll find that. And we've been a member of that board for the last 6 years to try and help foster an entire community, not just those that we deal with directly.
Thank you, Doug. David, you have $2 billion on women-owned businesses. So talk about that.
Certainly, we believe, much like Doug said, women's economic empowerment is an area of focus throughout P&G's global value chain, and it's embedded generally in our business practices and our purchasing strategies. When our supply network reflects the diversity of our consumers, employees, and stakeholders, our community will be better. It'll thrive, and our supply system is stronger and more resilient and more innovative, which has been really important during the pandemic. Building on the strong foundation of our 45-plus-year-old U.S. supplier diversity program, we do spend $2 billion with women-owned and women-led businesses around the world, but we're committed to do much more. We're committed to help them become a growing part of our global supply chain. In fact, at the recent Generation Equality Forum in June, we committed to spend $10 billion cumulatively by 2025 with these businesses. And to accelerate progress toward this ambition, we're partnering with many institutions to drive the change needed, including We Connect International, WeBank, UN Women, and more. We're also supporting capability building of women entrepreneurs, further developing the tools and the definitions and the infrastructure needed, and driving collaboration amongst companies and other industries in some cases to join in and advance these efforts. In addition, as one of the world's largest advertisers, and this is what I'm most excited about, we're leading change and collaborating across the creative industry with the goal to have equal representation in front of the camera and behind the camera, and to have gender and intersectional representation throughout the entire creative supply chain. And given our size, this is one we can influence the entire industry. And it's one we're deeply committed to. And the more we've done it, the more our communication connects with the consumers we're trying to connect with. So I think it's consistent with our values, and it's been very good business to do this.
Thank you, David. Larry, let's talk about your commitment in capital to diverse communities.
Once again, we have two big priorities: how we invest our money, or our clients' money, and helping our clients, our savers, to understand where best they could attract the best long-term returns. And we believe investing in some of the underserved areas of the world, of America, are turned into some great investments for our savers, for our investors. But two, as a fiduciary to all our savers, in terms of making sure that we are protecting their savings, we have to ensure that all the companies we invest in, that they have the appropriate DEI strategies, that they're moving forward. They're moving forward to making sure that they are hiring the best talent. They're moving forward that they can be connecting with more and more of their clients worldwide. We need to make sure that every one of our companies where we invest in are building a better community and being a part of those communities. And this is one of the reasons why I think some of the other winners today, these are the companies that identify that are doing that. They're building a better employee base, a more diverse, a more DEI strategy related to employees, related to their communities, and related to all their clients. And so a combination of how we are investing our money on behalf of those savers, but also how are we judging all the companies that our savers are investing in, that we are moving them forward. And so it's a huge responsibility, and we take that responsibility very seriously. And to that extent, we have the largest group of corporate stewardship team in the world, making sure that we're identifying the best companies, and so we could invest more of their savings in those companies' bonds and stocks. And so this is a major component and a commitment that we have for all of our investors worldwide.
Thank you. Mary, so what I love is your women dealership network. Talk about what you've done there.
Well, approximately 80% of the influencers in vehicle purchase decisions are women. And so it's really important that as we reach a very diverse customer base, that we have women dealers as well as women suppliers. And right now, we also added or created, I should say, a inclusion advisory board last year, and there are both dealers and suppliers on that council because we recognize we try to share everything we're doing to create diversity with our dealers and with our suppliers, but we also realize that we can learn from them. And so it's been a great process to hear ideas from suppliers, ideas from dealers, and how they're driving diversity within their own organizations. And so across our business, we're very committed to being inclusive and equitable and making sure that we support our women dealers as well as our women suppliers in the business so they can continue to grow.
Thank you, Mary. So we've spoken about the why, boards, CEOs, C-suite, pipeline, and we've spoken about supplier diversity. Now we're going to talk about vision. And I think a CEO's job can really be boiled up into just 6 words to get from here to there. So we're going to talk about the future. Ron, can you tell us about your vision for gender parity and diversity?
Our vision for gender parity is really quite simple. It's about we live in a world that's mixed and diverse. Our client base is mixed and diverse. The people that we care for in terms of who we manage money for, or to the extent we're servicing assets of those that manage money, are diverse. So our vision's very clear. We need to represent the world in which we live and operate. Second element of that vision is that diverse groups, whether they're businesses, whether they're not-for-profits, whether they're governments, diverse groups reach and achieve better outcomes. And it's those 2 things that are driving our vision and will continue to drive us in the actions that we take.
Thank you, Ron. And when I think of you, I think of one word: fortitude. Now on to Doug.
Robert, I do think vision is really important. The case for diversity, equity, and inclusion in business is really well documented. Numerous studies have shown that diverse and inclusive businesses attract and retain talent, foster innovation, and better reflect the character of those they serve. And inclusive, equitable societies are more resilient and productive as people feel empowered to achieve and contribute to their full potential. Our associate base is a reflection of the communities we serve, widely diverse in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation and abilities, as well as religious and political views, culture, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Our stakeholders have indicated they expect us to be a transformative force for equity in our business and beyond. And so that's our vision. We welcome that responsibility and enjoy working with others to help solve problems, large and small. The people that have been recognized here today and the companies they represent are problem solvers. This past 18 months, more than ever, have shown us that we're stronger when people are heard, included, and empowered. And we need to keep finding ways to leverage our collective strengths to create a more equitable society. It'll take all of us to bring about that change that we want to see. And that's the vision that we embrace at Walmart.
Well, thank you. And I will say the word that comes to me when I think of you and everything you've said today: caring, genuine caring. Mary, your vision.
Well, as we said, we're on a mission to become the most inclusive company in the world, and we want to work with other companies so we all share that mission. But we know having a goal isn't going to get us there. So we need interim goals. We need to make sure we're taking action. We need to make sure there's accountability and transparency. And at General Motors, we work toward, as we work toward creating the more inclusive culture, we encourage leaders to focus on 3 guiding principles. First is focus on your words. Are you listening and engaging in conversations that elevate the collective understanding and inform the actions to address inequality? You have to understand and listen before you can take action. And then it becomes your deeds. What are you doing? Support what you say with what you do, and advocate for equality by building on all of the existing initiatives that we have. And then finally, it's setting a culture that is truly inclusive, where everybody has a sense of belonging, and making sure that we have a safe environment where differences and diversity are respected and valued, and reflect how we recruit, how we hire, and how we develop and promote. So that transparency becomes very, very important in making it real. So our goal is to bring employees and all of our stakeholders along this journey and try to influence change that will close gaps. We know we're making progress, but we're not there yet. So we're continually striving to do more.
Well, thank you, Mary. And the word that comes to mind when thinking of you is perseverance. You're just not willing to fail. It's not an option. So now let's go, David, your vision.
Simply stated, my vision is to unleash the tremendous human capacity that exists in our company and to be part of unleashing the human capacity of the many stakeholders that we serve. And you think about to do that, it is to allow all of our people to come to work every day as themselves. It's to create literally the 50-50 across the world, up and down the organization and across the country, even in areas where it may not be fully embraced yet, to be a leader and set the stage by role modeling the outcome we want. And I'd say that starts with the individual, myself, having both the accountability and the personal responsibility and owning that vision and then working with the board. And I'm proud that the board understands, embraces, and wants to lead with me that change. And then it's the company leadership and then more broadly, the culture. And when we see indications like men, women having equal views of opportunities ahead, pay equal across men, women, attrition, all of those things are indications we're making progress, allowing people to come to work as themselves. And what that does is that it just unleashes the tremendous human capacity that exists in our company. And we can be part of in how we communicate, how we leverage media, unleashing the human capacity outside our walls. And to me, that's an exciting and a very inspirational vision.
Well, thank you, David. And the word that I think of when I think of you is accountability. Now, we wanted to have as a finale is Larry, because what you do is you're really the precursor of what ideas follow in the CEO world. So talk about your vision.
The process to build a more just and equitable society is not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. We all have to be accountable every moment. Driving real change requires a long-term commitment, not just from public companies, but a long-term commitment for all of society, a long-term commitment from governments. We must begin this journey by examining our own culture individually. We must look at our practices, our talent practices. We can't just stop there. We must use our voice, and that's what I try to do. Our voice and to work with others to advocate for change within our industry, within our society more broadly. Building a more diverse workforce is a top priority for BlackRock. We know that a diverse workforce is indispensable to our creativity, to our success, and ultimately to our shareholders. It's how we are going to answer the biggest questions and solve the toughest problems. An inclusive, equitable environment enables us to draw from expertise across all the spectrum and getting us a unique experience for everyone within the firm. Every company, every individual, including CEOs and the boards, need to re-examine and examine where they could do things better, where we could promote diversity. And importantly, this isn't just about a workplace issue, and I think we spend too much time just focusing on a workplace issue. Society needs to do a better job too. But importantly, we as leaders, we as CEOs, we are the ambassadors to our communities, and we have to have that voice. And in this divergent world, our voice is more necessary than ever before. But we need to be consistent. We need to have an open dialogue about this, and we can't be afraid. We need to have a voice, and we need to have a voice of long-termism, and we need to live it every day with our voice.
Well, thank you, Larry. And when I think of you, the word comes to mind is passion. So I want to thank this whole panel, extraordinary job, and you can tell why these are the leaders driving gender parity and diversity forward. We're now going to hand it off when Becky and we say thank you for working with us. And now we're going to hand everything off to Jose Zelstra, who's instrumental in putting this together and is going to give her summary.
Thank you to these incredible CEOs and all that we learned about their demonstrated leadership and commitment to gender parity and diversity. I'm sure everyone, having just listened to this session, will agree that these CEOs clearly lead by their values and take personal responsibility for advancing women and people of color within their organizations as well as outside their organizations. As David Taylor at P&G said, we need to unleash human capacity. These leaders are clearly shaping the culture of inclusion and using all their resources to make employees feel at home, as Larry Fink put. And given the size and level of influence they have, they not only care about diversity and equality within their own organizations, they feel it is their responsibility to build a better world. As ambassadors to communities, as David Taylor mentioned, or corporate stewards at BlackRock, these CEOs are role models and want to create a positive impact on society as purpose-driven CEOs and organizations.